I want to move us to the topic of the connection between this resiliency and spirituality. I think that's such I hesitate to use the word spirituality because some people are going to think, oh, that's a religious show.
Right.
I want to make sure we talk about the big S, the big S spirituality, not the little teeny S that says we have to be of the same denomination and the same faith culture and faith tradition and so forth.
Well, it's interesting when you talk about the broadest research possible. The overwhelming majority of people, 90-some% of people, think that there is some sort of God. And yet we just get ourselves so muddled up in talking about it.
Right.
And we have so many walls that we put up. Well, I believe this, but I don't believe that.
Yeah.
And so we are talking about a spiritual life in the broadest sense possible.
And how would you describe that? How would you define the broadest spiritual life?
Well, one way to describe it, one way to define it, would be what the writer Barbara Brown Taylor says. She calls it the more and capitalizes more. And we don't really know what the more is, but we know it's more than our earthly human existence. Myself personally, I sort of envision the creator of the universe as being sort of this ball of creativity and compassion and intelligence, and that we're all sort of part of that. But that's, a very, talk about a big global S,
right,
that's it.
Right.
But the point is, and I think what's so useful about that word more, capital M, is that's where the connection comes in with resilience, is if you believe in something more, something outside yourself, something bigger than the experience that you're in, it helps you keep your perspective. And you see yourself not just as someone experiencing this awful thing by yourself, but as part of a much larger picture that is not just all about this that's happening to you, but it's bigger, and it kind of helps to cut it down to size, whatever you're in.
I read a quote in a spiritual book just this week, and it struck me, and I wanted to be able to mention it to you today. The quote was, "If I have no pain, I'll never long for freedom." And I think many people are drawn to sort of a spiritual path or spiritual quest or just a faith experience because of pain and suffering. It brings us to that experience. And there are some positive things that come out of deep suffering. We ask the big questions. We look for community. We realize I can't get through this by myself. I need some support here. I've got to ask somebody to be with me. And then also, if you experience someone else, as you said, I've had that experience. I've been there. But you have greater compassion or empathy for people who've been through a similar suffering, similar pain.
Right. We rarely grow, unfortunately, through our happiest times. Our times when life is easy and things seem to be flowing and all is well with the world, sort of that feeling. Those are not the times when we grow.
Right.
We tend to grow in those times when we're pushed beyond what we think we're capable of, when we're pushed to great sadness or great challenge or whatever. Those are the times that we grow. It doesn't mean they're not miserable.
Right.
I don't ever ask someone who's in a hard time to say, well, there's a lesson in this for me and it's all okay. If you're in a hard time, you're in a hard time. However, there is a lot of growth and a lot of forward movement and a lot of expansion of who you are and what you know about yourself that can come.
Right.
It's been true in my life. I mean, the times that I've really seen who I am and what I'm made of have been the hard times, not the easy times.
Belinda mentioned that too, about how we can find new things from the challenges, new things emerge in us that we didn't realize they were even there. That can be such a support to ourselves. Is it natural to have sort of spiritual doubts when faced with adversity? I mean, do you go through these sort of crisis of faith moments?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for asking that.
Because,
yes.
Or is that just me?
I'm so glad you asked that, because sometimes people get this idea that doubting is a lack of faith. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Doubt is such a natural human reaction, and doubt is a part of the faith journey. You know, we were created with minds that wonder and think and ask questions. That's the divine creation in us, is that brain that can do that. And so wondering and doubting, I believe, is an essential part of the faith journey. And, you know, from my own tradition, I would say it's absolutely blessed by God and rejoiced in. You know, figure me out. That's what I'm about.
And we can never know, so it's always this continuous quest.
Right. And it is the most typically human thing of all to say, why is this happening to me? And
it starts there.
Absolutely. And that's not a sign of weakness. That's not a sign of lack of faith. That is a deeply human thing to do. Why is this happening to me? And the truth of the matter is we usually don't have a good answer to that.
We don't know.
But I'll tell you why it's not happening to you. It's not happening to you because God wants to teach you a lesson or make you more humble, or
you sinned, or you were bad, or, you know, all that business.
All of that stuff out there is not, you know, that's not what it's about at all. You may learn something in the process, but, you know, there's not some God up there sending lightning bolts down to make you miserable so you'll learn lessons. That's not my God.
Right. So spirituality, that sense of connectedness, that sense of wonder, that curiosity, can make these turbulent times, I guess in conclusion here, can make this livable, better. We can grow, we can learn, we can get to know ourselves and others maybe better through that.
And spirituality is ultimately grounded in hope. Hope and trust that the universe is a good place, a life-affirming place, an embracing place, a place that is moving toward some sort of wholeness and completeness. And spirituality means trusting that whatever's happening to you right now, it's part of that bigger picture, and that bigger picture is a hopeful one.
I love that. I love that. That's a great way for us to close this segment. Thank you, Deb, so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.